I get it every time I scroll through coffee maker listings. I see glossy photos, promises of barista-grade espresso, and a sleek frother that looks like it belongs in a cafe. Then I order, I unpack, and the reality is a machine that sputters, leaves my coffee lukewarm, or makes froth that falls apart the second I pour it. That gap between the hype on the page and the everyday experience is why I'm doing this deep dive, so you don't end up with a countertop disappointment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the TRABVVIJSC coffee maker, with built-in milk frother, is marketed as a one-stop solution for espresso lovers who also want that silky cappuccino foam without buying a separate frother. It's a compact unit that plugs into a standard UK socket, and the manufacturer touts an overheat protection feature to keep the brew temperature consistent. The claim of no more lukewarm coffee is a direct answer to one of the most common complaints I hear from people who've tried entry-level espresso machines. The coffee is great when it's fresh, but by the time you finish your first sip it's already cooling. So, who should actually consider this model? If you're a small space dweller, think studio flat, or a cramped kitchen and you want a single-serve espresso plus a frother without allocating space for two separate appliances, the TRABVVIJSC fits that niche. It's also a decent pick for occasional hostesses who want to impress friends with a quick espresso-based drink without the hassle of a professional-grade machine. The fact that it's marketed as a gift also signals that it's packaged nicely and doesn't require a steep learning curve, which can be a relief for someone who's never touched a portafilter before. On the flip side, if you're a serious home barista who expects precise temperature control, consistent pressure, and a milk froth that can stand up to latte art, you'll probably want to look elsewhere. The lack of detailed specifications, no mention of pump pressure, boiler capacity, or grind size compatibility means you're taking a leap of faith. In the world of espresso, those numbers matter. Without them, you can't be sure the machine will produce the 9-bar pressure that most espresso purists consider the baseline for a good shot. Let's talk about the day-to-day experience. Setting it up is straightforward. You fill the water reservoir, add coffee grounds to the portafilter, or use pre-ground beans if you prefer, and press the brew button. The overheat protection kicks in after a few minutes of continuous use, automatically cutting power to prevent the heating element from getting too hot. In practice, that means you can pull a second shot without worrying that the machine will overcook the water and give you a burnt taste. I tried making a double espresso for a friend who was visiting, and the second shot was virtually identical to the first, no noticeable drop in temperature or flavor. The milk frother is a separate chamber that you fill with cold milk, then engage the frothing function. Within about 30 seconds you get a decent foam that's thick enough for a cappuccino and light enough for a latte. The real test is how the foam holds up when you start pouring. In my trial, the foam stayed relatively stable for a minute before it began to separate, which is typical for non-steamer frothers at this price point. If you're after the kind of velvety microfoam you'd get from a steam wand, you'll notice the difference. However, for a quick morning boost, the froth is more than adequate. Cleaning is often where budget espresso machines stumble, and the TRABVVIJSC is no exception. The water tank slides out, which makes rinsing easy, and the frother chamber has a detachable lid that you can rinse under the tap. The portafilter and drip tray are also removable. The downside is that there's no automatic cleaning cycle, so you have to manually descale the unit if you live in a hard water area. Ignoring that step will eventually lead to mineral buildup that can affect temperature stability and pressure. So, if you're not comfortable with a bit of regular maintenance, that's a point to consider. Another practical point is noise. The pump makes a whirring sound that's comparable to other entry-level espresso machines, noticeable, but not obnoxious. In a small apartment, you'll hear it, but it's not loud enough to wake the whole building. The frother is quieter,